couple weeks back, the fourth film in the Hotel Transylvania franchise dropped on Amazon Prime. So today we're gonna stop and rank all 4 Hotel Transylvania films from the worst to the best. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your ranking of the Hotel Transylvania franchise. My list isn't the right list, it's just my list, and I would love to see yours. Also, if you enjoyed this video, I've done a ton of these animation franchise rankings. You can check out the other ones right up here in this playlist when this video is over, and let's get started. Coming in last place is Hotel Transylvania 3 Summer Vacation. Now, this movie was my introduction to the franchise. I hadn't seen the previous 2 movies, but I got invited to a press screening of the 3rd one, so loaded up my whole family, went to go see it, and I didn't know what was going on. All of a sudden, Dracula's running a hotel, and then he's on a cruise looking for love, and loud pop songs are playing. A little bit confusing.
There's something about an accent that makes a man sound so intelligent.
Anyway, rewatched all of them in anticipation of the new one, including this one. And when I got to this one, it just felt a little bit like they'd lost the plot and the emotional current of the franchise. What I mean by that is that the previous 2 movies, as well as the new one, are really all about this 3-part relationship between Drax and his daughter, as well as the son-in-law or boyfriend in the first film. And it's all of them that kind of make the story complete. And when you get to the 3rd one, it seems like the daughter, son-in-law are sidelined, and the emphasis is put on his love life and pursuit of this relationship. And it just kind of felt like it missed one of the important elements of the franchise as a whole. Likewise, it seemed like a much greater emphasis was placed on like the big musical numbers. Obviously, these have always been slapsticky, but this one, it just amplified all of that stuff and lost kind of the depth because that relationship was sidelined, in which case it was just kind of like musical number after musical number and big, gigantic joke sequence of him getting smacked in the face and farting because he ate garlic.
Must have been garlic in the guacamole.
Isn't that deadly for you?
Was that you?
Over and over again, all leading up to a climax where they do the Macarena to defeat evil or something like that. And so this one for me, it just felt like they lost their way a little bit, went more simplistic, and so this one worked the least for me. In 3rd place, Hotel Transylvania, Transformia, the new one that just came out. And this one was a return to form. The story was all about Drax and his insecurities in regards to retirement, as well as handing off his hotel to his daughter and the son-in-law, who he still doesn't really trust and think has a lot of faults. And that's what this franchise has always been about at its core. As much as it is this ridiculous situation about Dracula running a hotel filled with slapstick humor and pop songs, it's also been about very kind of universal experiences of parents having to let go. As your children get older, you have to let go a little bit more, trust them, realize they're adults, and realize they're not just copies of you, and you have to let them go their own way. And so you want to try and guide them so they go in the right way, but on their own, and discover who they are. And this is kind of a return to that with him getting older, realizing he can't run the hotel forever, trying to figure out what that means for the future and passing that along. All of that leads to the shenanigans where the spell's cast and suddenly they're transforming and he turns into a human, the human turns into a monster, and all sorts of other ones turn back into humans. And it creates a scenario where our lead character, who's always been at this hotel or in like dark nighttime settings or on cruises where there's all coverage, goes out into the real world. And that's just enough of a change of pace from what we've had up to this point in time. So it provides something new enough, something different enough that you see the character in a new light and there's new scenarios that can play out that are just fresh enough to keep things just alive. Now, at the same time, as cool as it is that a YouTuber is the lead voice in this movie, we also always are constantly aware of the fact that it's not Adam Sandler.
You're human, Drac!
Dad?
Oh no, I have a total dad bod.
Adam Sandler's such a distinct personality, inflection, voice, even when doing one of these voices, that you just always recognize the fact that this is someone doing an impression of Adam Sandler doing Dracula. And I think that did kind of hurt the movie a little bit for me, pulled it back. And we are in the fourth movie in the franchise, so there is a certain lack of freshness here too, but a nice return to form otherwise. Our runner-up, Hotel Transylvania 2, a movie that actually progresses the story a bit, quite a bit, has multiple time jumps in the film itself, and when we get into our main narrative, his daughter's married, has a kid, and the kid is old enough to be able to have nice adventures with grandpa. And that sets up the central narrative and conflict of the film, as he still has his insecurities, his desires for who this child will be, and is trying to force the child into the image that he wants for the child, which might not be what is actually going to happen. Thus, hijinks and insanity ensue. And as I said in the previous one, what this franchise does well is captures these universal feelings about parenting. And in this one, it goes into grandparenting of your child has a kid and you know what you want, but you're not the parent. And you're not the person that's supposed to be making certain choices for the other child. And that makes for some interesting dynamics that are actually not all that explored in family entertainment. And of all the places for it to happen, this is an interesting one. There's a number of wild, crazy shenanigans that play out as he kind of takes the child out, tries to force the child to turn into a vampire. It's also, it feels like a little bit like they didn't know exactly where they wanted to go with this. So you get to the third act.
Hi, Dad. Are we ready to do this?
And suddenly we introduce kind of a new villain to kind of have this big scenario unfold. It was pretty awkward and jarring the way that it kind of suddenly shifted right as we moved into the third act, where I thought it was working well enough with the idea of him taking the grandchild on his own and having these shenanigans. But, a nice continuation that took things to the next logical place, which would be being a grandparent. But coming in first place, the original Hotel Transylvania. As I mentioned before, my introduction to this franchise was with the third film, and so I really wasn't sure what was going to happen with this movie, and I went into it, and I was actually pleasantly surprised at how much it kind of had a heart to it, of all places. There's quite a bit of emotion and tragedy in the story, whereas at its core, it's all about someone who's had horrible tragedy in the past and thus has him so guarded in trying to protect his child. It's very much a story reminiscent of what was kind of going on in Finding Nemo, while at the same time telling a very different story. But it is this idea of a parent, one of their core responsibilities to protect their child. And in his case, he takes it so far, doesn't know how to let go because he has lost so much already, which is rather profound for a movie so juvenile with its actual humor.
You're in the timeout.
I'm a grown man.
And it had a lot more emotion. It got a lot heavier than I was expecting as it kind of explored some of this stuff. And even to that point, there's a bunch of interesting ideas being explored of this kind of reversal where Dracula is the one that feels like he's the one being hunted by humans. He perceives them as the monsters that are dangerous, that we need to protect ourselves from them, stay away from them. And he has his own prejudice against all humans because of what happened to him a long time ago. And he has to let go of that. Once again, quite a bit more profound than I was expecting after having only seen the third movie in this franchise. So, of course, all along the way, you have all these wild, wacky, crazy scenarios that takes all of these classic monsters and turns them into comedic characters. So there's quite a bit of fun to be had with that. And, of course, Adam Sandler is a funny guy. Put him in a wild, bizarre situation, and you're going to get some interesting antics. Now, of course, I don't want to overstate things and present it as I think this is like a family movie classic or anything like that. I enjoyed experiencing this franchise for the first time. It was enjoyable enough, and without question, this was my favorite of the bunch, the one that surprised me with how emotional it actually got. But I can't say that this is like one of my favorite animated films. I don't want to say anything like that, but much better than I was expecting it to be. And of the movies, it comes in at number 1. If you enjoyed this video and want more like it, you can check out my other animated franchise rankings right over there. I've done Pixar. I did all 60 Disney animated films like this year. I've done Illumination. I've done DreamWorks and many, many more. You can check them out right over there. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.